instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Potter and Scott McLeod. Welcome, everybody, to the Flagstick Podcast. I am Jeff Potter. He is Scott McLeod. And this podcast is brought to you this week by Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of fairways per capita in the country, with over 400 fairways closer than you imagine, top-tier accommodations, and exquisite culinary experiences. It is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book, so book your vacation at tee times if you just want to play golf at golfpei.ca. Of course, we encourage you to follow us across all of our social media networks, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Facebook. Please subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And we really do encourage you to get on that YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell and make sure that you never miss a single episode or whatever else we happen to want to post up there. Contests are coming. Flagstick Academy indoor instruction is coming. So subscribe. Do it.
Please do. Please do.
Well.
Sorry for the lack of a hat. So
I said, no, you're wearing it's like a hat because I just said off air we talk about some things sometimes, and sometimes we should probably just start recording and
sure.
do the show because there's stuff that goes on that doesn't get recorded, and then we bring it back up again. It doesn't quite have the same life to it. So
no,
but anybody watching, Scott's got the new do going on. Scott turns to 75 tomorrow.
75. Yeah, that's it.
So he wanted to get a haircut to make himself look younger and more attractive.
I had to cut the gray out, man. So
it looks good though. It does look good. Now, in truth, you wanted to clean it up a little bit. Going to start recording recording tips for the Flagstick Academy
exactly
this week, and wanted a nice new do for that.
As I said to you, I didn't want to look like a Q-tip while I was doing the recording. So or have to wear a hat. So yeah.
Yes. Well, wearing a hat's not so bad. I hardly ever don't wear a hat.
Look, wearing a hat.
Double negative. I hardly ever don't wear a.
Wearing a hat is something I definitely do all summer. People kind of, they say, "Gee, you're always wearing a hat" or stuff like that. I will tell you,
you're always outside.
And you know this, we're outside. We work in a business, so we're outside. Lots of friends that are dealing with different things related to skin cancer, melanomas, all sorts of different things. I actually went a couple years ago to teaching with one of the Aussie hats.
Oh. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it keeps my ears covered and stuff like that. And yeah, it's it's whatever. I mean, when you're a kid and you might look at it and go, "Oh, I don't want to wear that or do that." It's better to be safe than sorry. So,
yeah, and hit the sunscreen hard.
Big time. Yeah.
Hit the sunscreen hard. Don't think that just because it's you don't burn easy that something else isn't going on, because the sun does more damage than just burning your skin.
Yeah, and especially if you're out there, playing golf, for 4 or 5 hours or whatever, and then on top of that, if you're out there teaching golf and you're on that lesson tee and you don't have any protection or whatever,
exactly.
There's a reason I have a tent out there. There's a reason I have that hat out there. Yeah, just be safe, people, and you'll avoid a lot of things.
Good plan. Okay, so this week's show. We'll chat a little bit about the Golf Ontario schedule, which was a championship schedule, which was just released. We will talk about the TGL Week 4, the Tiger Rory matchup. We'll talk about, was it better this week than the first couple of weeks? Was it the same? Are they improving and so on? We'll also talk about the possibility of rangefinders on the PGA Tour. This should be an interesting discussion. And it should be an interesting topic moving forward with the PGA Tour players and the various tours. And on the back nine, we're going to kind of welcome back the LPGA Tour. The season begins this week, and with Brooke Henderson in the field, it's a limited field event. Obviously, it's a champions event, sort of the last 2 years of champions. But we're going to talk about that because there's a pretty in-depth insights and some quotes and stuff from her. But let's get to the front nine, presented by Metcalf Golf Club. A natural setting, a pleasant challenge. golf season is not that far off, and judging from outside, there's still snow, but not very much of it. So it is time to start thinking about the golf season ahead. Get on the wait list for memberships, leagues, and save money if you want to on golf at Metcalf with the very popular game passes. Visit metcalfgolf.com to purchase game passes to get on some of those lists. All right, let's get at it.
Yes, sir.
The Golf Ontario schedule was released, and some of the highlights from that are, for sort of this area or close to this area. The big one that comes in that I notice is the Ontario Junior Girls being at Loyalist, which is a big one.
Yeah, Golf Ontario's traditionally been back to Loyalist. I think they've held about 15 championships at Loyalist.
Great tournament course for juniors.
It really is, and there's been a lot of events there. I think it was the last Golf Ontario provincial championship they held there was the women's amateur that was won by Carly Mayer. So that was about, I guess, 3 years ago now, because she was 14 when she won that. She's now 17, I believe. But yeah, they've been a great host, and you're right, for the junior girls, great venue for that. Members are very supportive here. That's one of the big things. Volunteers, the people don't realize. Here's something that happens as far as the schedules are concerned. A lot of people look at the schedules. They have biases towards, it should be at this course or at this course. There's a lot of things that have to take place for events to go to these golf courses. So, and one of them is the support. And it really comes down to, associations want to work with facilities that want to work with them. And they also want to be in a situation where they can get all the things they need to run tournaments, and tournaments do not run without people, as we know.
Yeah. Very much.
So this is a big thing for them, their community that lives around there, very supportive as far as events. So yeah, that'll be a great venue come July, I believe.
And interesting that the men's amateur is at Deerhurst Highlands.
I put that on there. Yeah.
Okay. Now the thing is, Deerhurst is a great golf course, and an awesome resort. It's a little north, not crazy.
Muskokas. Yeah.
But of all of the golf courses in Ontario for the men's amateur, Ontario's biggest amateur tournament, I don't want this to be a negative Deerhurst because it's not. Yeah. It's just all the golf courses that it's been hosted at in the past.
Right.
Why Deerhurst?
Yeah, you know what? I'm very interested to find out more details on that particular one. I mean, what struck me a little bit about this one was, and this is why I noted in here, there's obviously lots of different events, but I put this one in the notes in particular. Deerhurst was one of the first golf courses as far as the Muskoka region that was a non-private. And it obviously had a lot of attention early on back in the 1990s. For tourists to go there, to go to the resort, they went to Deerhurst. And then, then came the, Club Link group courses, the Rocky Crest, the Grand Views, all those different ones up there. So I think there might be a couple of things at play here if I was to guess. And again, it's a guess. We're not, again, I think it has to do with probably Deerhurst from a PR standpoint.
Okay.
Is probably realizing and understanding that, this would maybe help raise their profile a little bit, create a little bit more awareness, because again, it's not a facility that's really been in the spotlight a lot in, recent memories. They do have obviously accommodations and facilities on site.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Yeah, so it lends itself in there, and again, it's not in the GTA proper. It's in the Muskokas. It's in a place that's kind of outside of the GTA. Gives a little bit more. It's a little bit more accessible for even golfers that are coming from the north. So if they're coming from North Bay, Timmins, whatever the case, so it's very central. If you look at it on a map, it's very central as far as the provinces.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I didn't want to suggest that they shouldn't be there because the golf course or the facility isn't up to the level that an Ontario amateur, because it certainly is. Sure. I know the golf course. The golf course. There's no reason why they can't host it. I just I was putting the question out there as to why they might have chosen Deerhurst versus the usual suspects of going right into the GTA or even coming to Ottawa or I noticed that there's also an event.
Yeah, and one last statement on the Deerhurst Windermere. I think part of that too is, what golf courses you can't just keep going back to the same golf courses, even though other
No,
golf courses have,
not when there's so many.
and when they're busy as well, because you've got to understand that they're not going to have the normal revenue stream that week. Versus other courses that might not make as big of a difference for a private club, but a private club members still want their golf course. So they are paying dues and so forth. So it's not a case of just losing out green fees and stuff like that. So again, it's a very tricky thing, but it's good to see golf courses at least step up.
Yeah. Now, Timber Ridge is going to host the Ontario U17s. We know Timber Ridge, great golf course. Good golf course for U17s as well. And the Ontario Women's Match Play at Cataraqui is now adding a senior match play. So that's all kind of part and parcel with the
Eastern provinces.
With the Eastern provinces. So,
and I think that one makes sense.
I think it does too.
Yeah. If you look at the golfers that are playing in the Eastern provinces, they have their field day that's attached to it. They have a high number of senior golfers that are there. And in fact, the women's match play itself, they are getting a lot of collegiate golfers that are in there, but certainly the Judith Carinuses, I'm trying to remember, as far as just different golfers that come there from a senior standpoint, there's a fair bunch of them that come and play. So, it makes sense to have that added there.
Now, you mentioned something there when we were talking about loyalists and the volunteers and, wanting them, Golf Ontario wanting to go to golf courses that not just for the sake of the course, but to go there because they wanted golf courses that wanted to work with them. So that kind of stuck something in my brain as to why we have the Flagstick Open and the Flagstick Shoot It at the courses that we have them at, particularly the Flagstick Open coming up in May. We have the golf tournament at Equinel because Equinel wants to be a business partner with us, not just because it's a great golf course, a great venue for our tournament. Equinel is a marketing partner with us. So we go there because we want to be there and they want us to be there and they want to do business with us. So that's how the partnership works it's a back and forth. They want to do business with Flagstick to promote themselves. And because of that partnership, we want to have the tournament there because it's a great golf course in this region, and it's the perfect facility for us to host this particular event, and it's been there for so long. So these long-term partnerships, that works because there's a back and forth. We want them and they want us, and that's how it works. If they didn't want us to be there, or they didn't want to be a business partner with us, then we wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I think what facilities have to realize is that, depending on who they're partners with and what they're doing, and, Golf Ontario is a great example, and ourselves, I think, is a great example as well, is that there is a lot of discussion that people don't hear about. It's not just about ads and things like that. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of recommendation. There's a lot of groups. I mean, Equinel is a great example. There's a large number of groups that I know here in Kingston, where I am, that go up there because of how we discuss it and that relationship. And these are personal discussions that I have with these people. And it's not just giving preference to one over another, but if we have more experience and work more closely with a golf course, we have a better chance to see how they deliver their services. We have a better chance to see how they deliver an experience for their golfers, to provide the good golf course and stuff like that. And as a result of it, it just becomes more top of mind. So if someone says, hey, I'm coming down to, Kingston area and I want to play a golf course, you know what? Smugglers is usually the one we go to. If somebody's like, hey, I'm heading up to Ottawa, where am I stopping in between? I'm heading from here. Go to Equinel. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Okay, so Pebble Beach Pro-Am coming up. Love the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I love anything that's at Pebble Beach just because it's Pebble Beach. And even if I can't be there playing, watching golf on TV.
Do you love that
Pebble
because
Beach.
it's just the visuals more than anything? Or is it the familiarity with the golf course? Or
it's just because because of the fact that I've seen so much golf there over the years, whether it's the U.S. Open or the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. There's such a familiarity with the golf course, the iconic holes that come into
Mhm.
play. It just something about Pebble Beach. It just has
Mhm.
that sort of aura, that special something. I
Yeah.
like watching. I like watching it on TV. I'd love to be there. I'm sure I'd like
Yeah, I
love to
mean,
go see it, but
I don't always love the pro-am part, but I understand it has
I don't like the pro am
to
part at
be
all.
there. It drives me that
Yeah,
part drives me nuts. But
Bill
I think
Murray and
yeah,
that's just that
Ray
stick is getting
Romano and
old.
yeah. So I mean, if they go back and do the same thing over and over again, and I think they begin to realize that, and hopefully they try to choose some different narratives. Yes, we've seen yeah. Anyways, well, we've seen Jim Nance's backyard. We don't need to see it again.
No,
Stuff like that. But you're right. And when we start to look at the field, it is a signature event. So obviously they're going to get a better field that's
which
there,
yeah,
and to see those players playing on that golf course. You're right. We start to think ahead to even, when another major comes back here, right in 2027, they'll be back at Pebble Beach for U.S. Open. So that becomes important to kind of say, okay, well, how's this player play that? Are they comfortable there? Do they like it? And certainly, as we can see, there is definitely a lot of top players in the field.
yeah. The unfortunate part is that the top players and the top players are there because it's a signature event, and
True.
they wouldn't be there otherwise if it was just as it has been in the past, just a regular PGA Tour stop
Yeah,
pro am.
because they don't
Because I
like
mean,
the
the guys they
pro. They
don't
don't
want to
like the
play in the
pro am
pro
either.
am. I mean,
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
don't. I mean,
yeah.
the top news with Scheffler making his
Yes.
return. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
You see what kind of shape he's in.
Hmm.
Obviously, Pendrith, Connors, Taylor, Hadwin, Hughes, Canadians in the field. That's always nice to see. But you've also got McEnroy, Thomas, Morikawa, Oberg, Cantley, Hideki Matsuyama. The list goes on and on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a deep field.
It is.
So it should be fun to watch from that standpoint to see what they do in a pro am setting, because obviously the course won't be U.S. Open setup,
No.
but it is still Pebble Beach, and if they have to sprinkle in Beamer, Bill Murray, and Ray
Yeah.
Romano, and
Yeah.
God
It's
knows who else
probably.
they
I
throw
mean,
in there.
I can't say I've watched a lot of PGA Tour golf early on the year. First event of the year, yes, check the Century out just to kind of see the start of the season, but I haven't really watched a lot. So I do suspect that I'll get a glance or two at this one for sure, just for all the situations that you've described. And I think as we get closer here and start thinking about majors and bigger events and
Mhm.
players championships and stuff like that, then we have the season sort of developing, and it makes it a little bit more interesting.
Now, a quick note: Julian Sale. I don't know that very many people in the region would recognize the name.
Yeah, Jillian Saleh. Yes.
Um, the former Rivermead member.
Yeah.
So that's what the history is there. But
Yeah.
he won on the Asian Tour, and not only did he win, he became the first player to ever win in their debut.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty spectacular 5 under 65 in his final round.
Yeah.
So that's
So
pretty impressive.
Julian's somebody I've sort of kept track of, and just he's originally from Reunion Island, lives in Paris now, part of the French national team, but he's just 27. But he spent a couple of years living in Gatineau. As you said, he was at Rivermead, distinguished player on the Golf Quebec circuit. He won 6 of the Triple Crown events in a period of 4 years, including 2 Tunuses, a Duke of Kent, a Quebec men's amateur, and that's sort of how he sort of kind of rose up. And during that, he was going to a junior college in, I think, Iowa, and then eventually went to Arkansas State. But last year he had limited status on the Challenge Tour. Made his way through the Asian Tour Q School and got his way onto the tour here. And as you said, won already. That's got him into some of the bigger events, their international series events, which started this week in India, and just puts him that much closer to bigger things in golf, on top of winning a nice check. But it's been fun to watch the success, and he's been pretty responsive too, just back and forth. We post some things on our Instagram and stuff like that, and he certainly acknowledges it. And despite the fact that he is back in his home nation and things now, he still has a fondness for Rivermead and his time at Gatineau.
Beautiful. Okay. Let's get into a little bit of TGL talk. As we said, this is going to be, I'm not saying that we're going to get deep into conversations with this every
Yeah.
single week, every single episode, but this was sort of the last shoe to drop, if you will, with respect to the combinations of teams playing each other that we wanted to see how what the audience would be like, to see
Mhm.
what the event would be like, to see the different the chatter,
Yeah,
how
and
much it improved.
it's the two big faces
Yeah,
of the league, right? It's these are the two guys that really helped create this league with the, obviously the backers and so forth. So they are the face of it. So if something was going to happen, it had to happen here. That's
this
for
is it.
sure.
And I gotta say, it's still slow as molasses, and quiet, and I still, it's still really. I still find it really hard to watch, but from the standpoint of the competition side of it, this week, this was it. This
Yeah.
was the one you want. This is what you wanted. Tiger versus Rory. It went to a playoff, an overtime playoff.
Yeah.
There were tons of hammers thrown at the right times. It seemed like this time you had two teams playing each other that knew what it was all about.
Yeah.
And there was chatter, there was good golf, there was not terrible golf. Um, Viewership was back up, not at the level that it was in the debut,
Right.
but the debut was the debut, right? I mean,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
that's a little different, but it was definitely, in the 4-3 victory for Jupiter Lynx, they got what they wanted there. I mean, is it on? Is it turning around because of this? I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think I think there's still something missing. I don't know what it is. I'm not a TV producer by any means.
Yeah.
Something's
I,
missing.
I think they got, they got what they needed from the skill standpoint. Obviously players were making putts. You got the Tom Kims in there, you've got that sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They're keenly aware of it. I mean, you listen to these guys in their press conferences, Rory in particular, and they're keenly aware of the audience feedback and kind of what they need to be doing, what they want out of it. They can't really script making putts, not
No,
when it's
no,
live
not
or
really.
whatever. So they're obviously trying harder on the other end of things. There were still some odd shots, although Rory has tried to defend it by saying, "Okay, I brought in my quad and my TrackMan and compared to what I saw." But there was definitely a couple of odd shots that I had some text for some people. They were like, "Hey, Rory didn't have that bunker. Where do you think that bunker shot went on 6?" And I was watching it on the replay, so the person that I was texting with had seen it live, and I said, "Man, the thing would have went flying over the green or whatever." And he tried to play it off a little bit about they're struggling with the bunkers, and
Mm-hmm.
he said one of the issues with the bunkers is that there's a lack of moisture in there, and they're trying to add moisture to it, but it's getting almost like flour. So there's
Oh,
a lot
okay.
of guys that are struggling with the sand shots. I wondered if it was some contrast issues with the lighting, just because it's so bright and white and it's really hard to see much down there. But now, hearing them discuss that as far as the texture, just trying to respond to that and try to hit out of it. I mean, I can imagine trying to hit a bunker shot out of flour. If we use that as the analogy, that would be a tough go or whatever. But again, these are little niggles and things like that. I think it delivered from the competition standpoint. I think a lot of people were happy to see, the playoff format actually used.
Yes.
But the issue is that we're not always going to see this. I would guess that through the regular season, this might be the last playoff that we see.
I think I think we'll continue to see more blowouts than
Probably,
close
yeah,
matches, and I think that the hammer format that they have,
yeah,
I think it lends itself to the team that drops the hammer picking up that 2 points,
yeah,
and extending those leads a little bit to the point where they become insurmountable by the time you get through 3 or 4 holes. And like I said, I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
no,
I kind of suggested last week about pre-taping,
mm-hmm.
increasing the production value, and actually I mentioned that to my son Brandon, and he's like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, why not? He says, because it's got to be. He says, so it's not like it's like a hockey game. You can't have a live hockey game recorded and then broadcast it 3 days later. He said it's golf. He says you can't play the U.S. Open and then have a
Mm,
winner and then broadcast the actual thing on TV a week later. Like it's live in that respect. It's got
I
to be
think
live,
that
and
can,
I
yeah.
agree with him. I mean, he's right. It's still golf. It's not American Gladiators.
No,
It's not,
no.
but that's the venue that we're sort of envisioning. It's like a
Yeah.
game show. We talked about
Right.
that,
Yeah.
but it isn't a game show. It's a sporting event that has a result, and
Yeah.
because it has a result, and in the day and age that we're at now with the internet and social
Hmm.
media, that result is going to be, even if they tape it on Saturday the week before, everyone's going to know who won way before they broadcast it. So they
I get
almost
it.
have to broadcast it live.
I get it. The only thing is that the difference, I guess, in some of the sports, not every sport, and it's obviously not every situation, is that, there's usually not as big of a separation in scoring in a lot of other sports. Whereas this, we can have a huge separation in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So where in the end, I think, as we talked about, and kind of this is the last statement for this week for me, is that they can't depend on the score as the entertainment value.
No, they've got to find
So,
some way of filling
right,
the gaps better
right,
so that they
exactly.
can, like, that's what they
Yes,
got. They got to
exactly.
find a way
Yeah,
to fill that downtime because
yeah,
it's too much golf. They
yeah,
can't cut away to another hole.
yeah. So if they're going to do something, they have to, they have to do the stuff that they can depend on, which
Mm-hmm.
is what they can do outside of the actual score, and that's it. So I'll be watching next week, and
So will I.
we'll
So
see
will
what
I.
happens.
Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about on the front nine here is we're going to talk about rangefinders.
Hmm.
Could we see them on the PGA Tour? They're already in use on the LPGA Tour. So
Yeah.
could we see them on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, so this week there was a little bit of a roundtable discussion between the tour and some media members at Pebble Beach. That was yesterday morning, and they basically revealed that they're going to try to test out some DMDs, some distance measuring devices. They didn't say specifically what they are. Assume they're going to be rangefinders during multiple events this season. Now, this has been done before. We go back to 2017. They did a test on the Corn Ferry Tour. They did some tests on a full year on the PGA Tour Champions Tour. Didn't really get a lot of results or things out of that. But unfortunately, here's how this is working. The officials say we're hearing it from the fans. I mean, they're obviously talking about pace of play and stuff like that. Um, I think it makes sense, but I don't know if it'll make a difference. And here's why. Here's why I'll tell you this. It can make a difference for some things, getting a quick yardage and so forth. And again, I've had it on the LPGA Tour and was allowed to use a rangefinder. We made use of it. It's okay for some of those younger players coming up. They're kind of used to that. It'll be difficult for the older school players to make the adaptation because they'll still check the yardage. They still want to pace it off. It doesn't matter what the laser finder
Too much on
says.
the line.
They definitely want to pace it off. You're right. There's a lot on the line here. So, and the other side of it, as far as pace of play, and I've said it, and I will say it again. Say it again. No matter what they do from a pace of play perspective, if they're not enforcing any types of rules or penalties or whatever, as they kind of should be, slow players play slow because they play slow. It is not to do with how they read the greens, how they check their distances, slow players are slow. People that are a little bit more selfish, they're not worried about what everybody else does. They're only worried about themselves. Maybe they're not selfish. Maybe they just, that's their pace of play that they're used to. So slow players are slow. And so I don't know if it'll make that big of a difference as far as dealing with what we're hearing from fans right now as far as pace of play. And San Diego was a great this week. Torrey Pines, it was 5 hours and 40 minutes for the final round to play. I don't think if you throw a rangefinder out there, if it made 2 minutes difference, I don't think that's the big perpetrator here.
No, I think I agree. I don't know if I like this move I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
do you think it'll make a difference?
I don't think it's going to make any difference, really. But I think it's going to. I think it might slow people up that aren't usually that slow if they have the option to use a DMD to assist in yardages, because it'll add a layer. It may add a layer. I shouldn't say it will, because you don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We can speculate all we want on how it's going to play out. Sure. We don't know. I speculate that with some people, it may add a layer of decision that would slow things up a little bit more because of the double dipping. They'll laser it, and then they'll pace it off, and they'll laser it. They'll double check their book. I mean, frankly, I'm just getting sick of it. I mean, but at the same time, they're playing for millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. True.
And their livelihood. This is not
hit and giggle on a Sunday.
No. This is for keeps. This is for real. This is realsies, man. This is realsies.
Yeah.
So I understand wanting to kind of be sure. I do. Yep. But it can get a little bit annoying to me when it's seemingly taking the part of the calculation, part of the game that with all
it's another skill.
Well, yeah, it's because now they have every tournament has a green book, and they
don't use them anymore. So
I thought they were still using them.
No, they're not allowed to use them.
Okay.
Well, they have the yardage books, but they're not. The green specific books don't have the detail that they used to.
Okay, because I thought they were still using it, except certain courses. I know Augusta didn't allow them to use them anymore, but okay. Well, then I stand corrected there because I thought that was stupid. That they had a book that told them where all the slopes were. It's like, look at the green. You got to put some effort into it. And I understand the green book was probably designed to speed up the reading of the greens, but reading of the greens is a bit of it's an art form that they have to develop, and the better players and better caddies are better at it. And that's why they get an advantage. If you give everybody the same advantage, well, then that takes the skill of being able to read greens out of it a little bit. Anyway, so I'm glad that that's not happening anymore. I stand corrected. Whatever.
I'll double check that for sure, but they obviously changed them a fair bit.
But this is another layer of that. Essentially, it's like, okay, well, now you're getting basically a pair of binoculars, which I'm all for rangefinders in casual golf and even in amateur golf if you want to. I guess that you don't always have a. It's professional tour golf. You have all of those other elements at your disposal. You can go out and walk a golf course ahead of time. You can do all you're given a yardage book and all this stuff. Like, you got all this stuff. Like, amateur golfers showing up at a golf course for the first time for a tournament don't have that luxury of being able to go out 3 days or 4 days earlier and because you got to work and stuff.
But again, I think what you said though too, there's a separation between us going and playing a casual round on a Saturday. And I mean, here's the thing. What is the pace of play of the average person versus the tour? People complain about the tour, but they're moving just as slow at their own golf courses, and they have rangefinders and so forth. So
yeah, again, but
I think it comes back to the player, though. It comes back to the player more than anything.
It's always the player. Yeah. It's not the level of golf. The PGA Tour. I mean, I don't know if you looked at the pace of play. Averages for tournaments. I don't know that there's too many rounds of golf on the PGA Tour that are sub 445.
Oh no,
I mean they're all 5+.
Sure.
And to me that is a bit nuts.
Yeah, but we also have to think about this too within the tour, and this is, again, people have to put it in context. Again, being in the situation of being out there where ropes are getting moved, you're waiting for cameras to get in place, you're signaling to the TV people. Like, there's all sorts of other things that are happening here that don't happen in regular golf. So people have to understand there's other things that take place here. And
but there's no time. TV timeouts and stuff. Like, it's not like a guy's going to hit a shot and he's got to look at the camera and say, "Am I allowed to hit yet?"
No. I'm not.
There's
saying
none of that. It's like, I get the walk through ropes and stuff, but that's not turning a 4.5 hour round of golf into a 5.5 hour round.
No. But you've also got to understand the PGA Tour also, they want more publicity and stuff, but all of a sudden they let 100 people inside the ropes and they're moving around and they're all around the tee box, and it takes time for those people to get settled. So there's a lot of factors that are here. So there's no magic bullet, and I don't think just a DMD is a magic bullet. And again, I'd like to see all the data from those tests, the Corn Ferry and the PGA Tour champions.
Yeah.
But again, if it helps in any way, sure, that's fine. I'm all for it.
I also don't think that a shot clock is I love the shot clock idea. I know they asked some of the guys and they're like, yeah, the shot clock. Yeah, the shot clock. Yeah. No. How are you going to enforce that? How are you going to have a shot clock on every single group and have it count down with a heartbeat and all that shit?
Well, technically there is a time limit, but it's not enforced. So,
well, that's the problem. That's the problem. Forget the shot. Right. Tiger got nailed on the shot clock on the TGL with the putt, because they took too much time. But on the PGA Tour or any professional tour, if you're not going to enforce the time penalty,
which is 40 seconds is your time. If you're the first person, you get extra time, but the other, it's supposed to be 40 seconds.
All right, listen, we got to get out.
Okay. All right.
We'll be back. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the LPGA Tour. All right. You're listening to the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod.
Hey, loser buys the first round. You're on.
On Prince Edward Island, we believe in playing your game your way. From the first tee box to the 19th hole and beyond. With over 400 fairways waiting for you, there's always another reason to golf Prince Edward Island.
All right. Welcome back to the Flagstick Podcast with Jeff Botter and Scott McLeod. That was rather an abrupt commercial break. I apologize for that, but sometimes you get going, so think the topic you're into it, you kind of lose track of the clock. I need like a massive clock timer in front of me, letting me know when we're getting close, because all of a sudden you see less than a minute before it's going to cut off the recording, and it's like, oh my gosh, gotta get out.
We need to be like at the station where you'd have the producer on the other side of the glass just giving you one
exactly
talking in your ear. So
but we made it. We're good. Didn't get cut off. Everything's nice and clean. And we're back. So let's get into the back nine, presented by Celtic Golf Center, now with two awesome locations, one in Kemptville, the signature location, I suppose, and the brand new location in Kingston, both featuring multiple state-of-the-art TrackMan sims. Your golf season now never has to end. Enjoy a round of golf with friends. Join one of the many leagues. Get fit for some new equipment or take a lesson. Celtic Golf Center has got you covered because it really is all about the golf. Visit CelticGolfCenter.com to learn more, to book tee times, or to sign up for a league. And stay tuned, obviously, because the Flagstick Academy tips that will be coming up soon are all filmed at Celtic Golf Center in Kingston.
There you go.
All right. So the LPGA is back.
Yes.
The Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions in Orlando, Florida. Hopefully a little warmer.
You made a lot of friends last week with those comments.
I'm sure I did not. I'm sure all the people that don't go to Orlando, Florida in this time of year were not upset at my comments, but those that do go down are the ones that were at the PGA show last week that had to endure that mess of weather. Is what it is, right? There you go.
You got it.
This week's field obviously has a limited field. I mentioned earlier on 32 LPGA Tour winners who won over the last 2 years, plus the celebrities. Who will be obviously competing in a Stableford point system of their own.
Yeah, which I ignore. I couldn't even tell you who. I mean, they show them a little bit, but I could care less. I mean,
honestly, like,
enjoy yourselves.
Here's the thing: they have fun, but why do I care? Like, honestly, I just don't care about. The celebrities on a good day, I don't care.
Yeah, the only reason I care is that the sponsor wouldn't be involved if the celebrity isn't there, so the event happens. But that's about it. But I don't care.
That's yes, exactly. I would agree with that. That is my level of caredness.
I don't really want to see Marty Fish hit another shot or whatever. I just don't. Whatever. So I mean that's fine. Some people might love that.
Bucket loads of money. You can buy your way into a tournament with an LPGA Tour player or a PGA Tour. Right? Good for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whatever. It's all good.
Yeah,
made for TV. Okay, so we want most of this discussion to be about Brooke and where she's at with her game. There's a lot of quotes out right now. A lot of discussion.
She met with the media this week, so that's obviously comes from our story that we were doing. So
right. So before we get to Brooke, because most of this is going to be about Brooke, let's talk about Nelly Korda just for a second. Mm-hmm. What expectations? Kind of like the Scheffler thing on the PGA Tour, and with him being injured to start the season, we're really in the dark as to what we're going to get from him. But Nelly Korda was sort of like the LPGA equivalent of what was going on with Scheffler, just winning all the time. She won 7 times, including 5 times. 5 times in a row. Which is incredible in itself. But what do we expect when someone has a year like that, like
Mm-hmm.
Scheffler had and like what Korda had?
Yeah.
What do we expect from someone like Nelly Korda going into this first event of the season? Do we expect her to be that consistent and that good, or do we look at how she finished the year last year as more of a benchmark of what she's capable of versus how she started the year?
I don't know, and I think that was hard because I think on one side of it, she's going to know that that's what she's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of it, how do you keep your mind from comparing how you're playing now to last year and just play?
Yeah.
So, it's pretty hard to predict what is going to happen, nor can we really. But, our expectation is that, I see it being very difficult to repeat what she did.
Well,
But
Tiger,
obviously she's capable.
Tiger at his best, was it not? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a statistics guy when it comes to golf, but did he not win 11 times in 1 year?
I'll have to.
I know VJ
check.
won like a
Nine.
like
I think nine.
I was he not at one point? He was not challenging Byron Nelson's record for consecutive wins in starts.
Yeah, I'd have to double check.
And it was more
Tiger
than
had, Tiger
it was
had
more
nine.
than
Tiger had 9 wins in 2000.
And a lot of those were consecutive.
Yeah, I'd have to double check that where they're at, and then 9 for BJ in 2004. But again, even for Tiger Woods, despite the fact he had multiple years where he won multiple times, yeah,
one year was never as good as the next. Like it was not like he did 9 and then the next year he won 9 and then the next year he won 8, and it was not like that.
So between 2006 2007, Tiger won 7 times in a row. And so it was a crossover of the seasons. Obviously, Brian Nelson had won 11 times in 1945 consecutively. And then the same thing happened in 1999 to 2000. There were 6 in a row, but it was a crossover between 2 seasons. So, but again, you're only talking about 2 players, Tiger Woods and Byron Nelson, that had more wins in a row than, kind of what Nelly's doing. I know that Nancy Lopez had a long streak as well at one point on the LPGA Tour, I think during her rookie season. But again, these are anomalies. If we're talking about this happening on the all-time history of the tour, what are the chances that that happens for a 5th or 6th time all time across both tours?
Well, that's it, eh?
Yeah. I mean, if you're Nelly, what are you thinking in your brain? Like,
oh my God, that's got to be hard. The expectation on yourself, like that's where the problem can start to come into play, is that you have a year like you had.
Yeah.
Now, do you expect that you're going to have that kind of year again, or do you just believe that it's possible that you could have a year like that's a mental mindset I think that you have. It's like the amateur golfer. I always said that for me, as an amateur golfer, one of the worst things that ever happened to me was breaking 80.
Yeah.
As much as it's the milestone that everybody wants to hit. The first time I shot 79 was the first time of the worst day of my golfing career, because now I knew I could. Yeah. So then the next time I went out and played and shot 81, it's like, oh frick, I mean, and then you shoot a bunch in the 80s, then you get one in the 70s again. Okay, here we go, and then the first time you break 70 and shoot in the 60s, it's like, okay, I'm ready for the tour. and honestly, look at we laugh, but it's dead serious. I've heard it from amateur golfers that and you see some of these TikTok skits and stuff where the guy, he's like, he just hits a 300-yard drive. The four brothers. I love these guys. And they exaggerate all these normal things that happen.
Hey, what's the course record?
Yeah. It's the exaggeration of that. But when you're an LPGA or PGA Tour professional, are you beyond that? When you have this kind of a year, do you mentally expect that you are going to be that dominant again, or do you mentally believe that it's possible? And I think that's the gray area there. It's like, do I think I can do it? Do I know I can do it? Do I expect to do it?
I think the hard one within that is that, when that happens, and I double checked it, there's been 3 5 a 5-event win streaks on the LPGA Tour. Nancy Lopez did do it, and Annika did it as well. But I think more significant is the 7 wins within a season. But I think the thing is that sometimes you go and this sort of, we'll call it, just happens. And again, that's playing it down, because it didn't just happen. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into it to get these victories and so forth. But can you actually then design a strategy to make it happen again? And how do you, how do you get those outcomes? So you're right, that puts a lot of pressure on you. If you don't play well, so say for an example, she comes out and, she throws up a stinker for the first, 2 months of the year. You're going to have a lot of self-doubt. You're going to get negative media attention. You're going to it'll going to be headlines, what's wrong?
Yeah. The pile-on effect takes into play.
Right. And then can you keep yourself away from that so that, your expectations are just to go out and hit the next shot and not worry so much about the results? And
that's hard.
That's why that mental aspect is so critical, especially in golf, where you have too much time to think. You're not reacting, and you have so many things that have to happen and glue together to be successful. And as you said it, I think it was last week, we were talking about, you can do all you want, but if the other player does something better, you lose. So, you could be performing and doing everything you want, but your competition, you can't do anything about it. You can't play defense.
I'm not so sure, and I don't know Nelly Korda well enough, and I don't know her game well enough, and I haven't tracked enough of her play to believe that this to be true. But from what I have seen of her, I'm not sure that she is the strongest, mentally strongest golfer on the LPGA Tour. I'm not saying that she's weak. I'm just saying that I've seen situations where I've watched her play where there's more than a few chinks in the armor at times. And I know how she started the year. I also know how she finished the year. And she was not the same player at the end of the year as she was at the beginning of the year. She certainly did not continue winning. She didn't really win more. Her consistency level of her game did drop. So did she just get off to a really hot start, rode that wave for a while and then fell off, unlike Scheffler, who on the PGA Tour, who won, and his falling off was not winning.
Right.
He still finished. He still was in contention almost all the time when he played. Yeah. He was always, he was always there. And then right at the end of the year again, he's there, he gets it back and starts winning again. Like there was a difference in Scheffler and Korda in that respect. Scheffler was consistent from the start of the year to the finish at the end of the year. Korda was really strong at the beginning of the year and then tailed off.
Yeah, and you got to wonder too. I mean, in dealing with higher level athletes and stuff like that, and even in the golf space or whatever, it's like, how much energy did you have to put into what you did when all that stuff was happening? And do you get to the point where you're absolutely spent? Not only on the golf course, but off the golf course, because obviously there's a lot that comes with that. Be it endorsements, corporate outings, as I said, media coverage, so forth.
The what you don't know kind of.
Right, exactly. The things that most people don't see besides, just the shots hit on the golf course. So you wonder at some point, do you, as much as you want it, how exhausted are you and how spent are you? And how much, do you have to manage to be able to sort of keep yourself on that level? And, we look at somebody like Scotty Scheffler, who, stays off social media, who, basically is a noted homebody, who just doesn't do a lot of extra stuff. And, he seems like he's always preserving himself for when he needs.
That's a really good example. That's a good analogy to use, a good example.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part, and I see that even with college athletes that head down to the and play their seasons. They play down in school in maybe the US, for an example, and then they come back to Canada, and I see them try to play this full massive schedule, and they're exhausted by the time they head back to school in mid-August, and so it's at some point your body, your mind, everything only has a certain amount of everything in the tank.
Mhm.
So, some players are obviously at a super high level, but how sustainable is that? So,
Well,
I mean, I expect to see her win. I'm just not expecting 7 wins, although it could happen.
Well, and we want to get into the Brooke talk here too, but
Yeah,
I want
let's
to
do
say last thing I want to say about Scheffler and Korda is too that Scheffler week in and week out, endorsement wise, has a lot more guaranteed money
Correct.
in his there's less. Whereas Korda's on the LPGA Tour, the LPGA Tour is not exactly like it's better money they're playing for than they ever have, but it's
sadly,
not PGA
it's
Tour
not.
money. So
No.
she can't just play 14 events or 15
Right.
events
Yeah.
and pick and choose. She has to play more.
Right.
Which means she has to work on the game more, which means she's taxing her mind and her body more. And when she has endorsement opportunities, she can't exactly turn them down because that's, now Korda might not be the best example of that because she's probably doing okay financially, but but that's my point, and that kind of leads into what we're going to talk about with Brooke and where she's at,
And the tour itself has big expectations for these athletes because of the face of the tour.
Yes.
And these tours are predicated mostly on stars. So, when all of a sudden you're at an event, the commissioner or whoever's, with the tour wants to parade out those stars to the corporate sponsors or whatever. So there's an additional level of pressure there. The player that's 100th is not being, depended on to go out and be the face of the tour where these players are.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Brooke now.
Sure.
The short summation of it is it's been 2 years since Brooke, who's now 27.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years since she won, and the last time she won was at this event.
Yeah.
She needs to win on tour this year to be able to get invited back to this event, which is a big event. She is starting her 11th year on the tour. She had no wins last year, but she had 3 top 3 finishes, which is good by normal standards, right? She closed out the year with 2 top 10s and a 4th when she played with Corey Connors at the Thornton Invitational. And in her mind, she saw that as sort of a trend, a sign of things to come. So now, with that in mind, are the expectations on Brooke because of her early success on the LPGA Tour? Are the expectations too high for her, or has she just, has she just gone through some changes to her equipment, her game, like all kinds of things that has things changed in her life that have, made it more difficult, or has the tour just gotten better?
Yeah, it's hard to speculate. And I mean, the tour, I think, is always getting better. And, it obviously presents some challenges that way. I would say as players' lives get further on in the tour and they get higher up, they certainly, as we said, things become more complicated with sponsors outings and things like that. Can we point to those specific things as being a reason why she hasn't won? I don't know. I don't think that's fair. Only she really knows kind of where she's at with all these particular things. But, so she, talked to the media on Tuesday. We have the full story. If you want to read it, it's up at flagstick.com with all the full quotes. We're not going to read every single quote from her or whatever here, but, I listened in on this press conference and, she pointed to a number of things. She feels like she's kind of trending in the right direction the last part of the year. She got some things together. 2 specific things sort of stood out beyond equipment. She's, she made a new irons and a new putter at the end of the season, but now she's got a new driver and a hybrid in her bag. But she pointed a lot to her glasses.
I noticed that.
Yeah, so she's always had an issue on her eye. I think they refer to it as a skier's bump or something that they call it or whatever. Anyways, whatever the case was, for a lot of years she didn't wear glasses when she'd go out and play. She couldn't see. She wasn't very good at seeing, and vision's obviously very important for a lot of things related to golf. Now she went to wearing glasses in August 2023. That was a difference that everyone saw, but she chose in this past September to have surgery to kind of take care of her eyes so she could wear contact lenses, because she couldn't wear contact lenses before
because of the bump. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a number of people for a number of reasons that can't wear contact lenses. I'd be one of them. So, that's why I'm never there. But for her, now she feels that because she's got the glasses off again, she can see better. She doesn't have the frame bothering her on particular things. She's sort of feeling, I don't know, she didn't say this specifically, but I'd say it sounded like she felt like more like her old self, as far as that aspect of it. So whether it makes a huge difference, I don't know. On this particular golf course, I think it's really interesting because she's had success at this place. This is the best chance she's got to kind of get a win. And, she finished second here in 2022. She won in 23, and then she was third last year. So, if there's an opportunity, especially with 32 players in the field.
Yeah, this is it.
This is it. This is a big opportunity for her, so she feels confident. She says she's worked on her game. She's got some, great notes. She's comfortable here. She likes the Pro-Am environment. She's a very, social person that way. So she enjoys that. So I'm expecting a good finish here. And if there is a chance for her to get an early win in the season, I think this is it for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, certainly she has the game for it. This is not somebody whose game has completely fallen off, by the way. This is not, and you got to remember that the players coming up on the LPGA Tour are they're where Brooke was when she came out. They're, and she didn't do the NCAA route. So you got a lot of these collegiate players coming up now, these really, really good golfers, and they're having successes early on. And you got the Nelly Kordas of the world, and you got Lydia Ko, who's Lydia Ko could kind of be like if you want to look at games, Lydia Ko was at a level beyond everybody.
Yeah, so look at the number of wins that Nelly and Lydia had last year. Well, that doesn't leave a lot for everyone else.
No, and the thing is with Lydia made a like a comeback, more or less. She never really disappeared completely. No. She just didn't win.
Yeah.
And Brooke is kind of in that sort of same area. Like she's at some point or another that those wins are going to start coming again. Those top fives are going to start coming again. They're not always going to be victories.
No,
but putting yourself in contention to win is what she wants to do. Right. For a while now, she's had some top threes, she's had some top tens, but she hasn't been in contention to win on a regular basis. And I'm sure that that's where she wants to get back to. It's not just about, I need to get back to winning. Well, no, winning takes more than just your good play. It takes, someone else not playing better. And but being in contention, being within a couple shots of the lead on a Sunday, leading a tournament going into the final round, that kind of thing, I think that is where she needs to get her game to. And then the wins might start happening.
Yeah, you're trying to be positioned so that if anyone else falters, you can be there. And I think the great part is that when you don't have the success that you want, it usually makes you want to double down on the work and the effort to try to make that happen. And, as she said, it's getting off to the right starts. That's how she feels she needs to be in contention more. And just like you said, she wants to have those opportunities, especially on Sundays, kind of be in the mix or whatever. But the only way she's going to do that is she's got to have better starts on Thursday and Friday and get herself in position so that she's not trying to have backdoor top tens. There's nothing worse, for a player. They're happy when they play well on Sunday and they work their way up the leaderboard, but sometimes the T8 is not a T8. Sometimes, if you're up on top and you're kind of in the mix and you just miss out, you're sort of okay with that. You don't want to miss the win. You're happy, yes, if you climb up the leaderboard on a Sunday, but you also know sometimes that you just don't have an opportunity to win. And she wants to be in that top little level so that, if somebody else falters, she can pounce on that. And she's done that a number of times in her career on particular things. But usually if she starts out fast and she knows that's what she needs to do, she needs that lower scoring average, get in those final groups, get herself in the position that, you're there and you are contending, and, that's the plan. And it starts today.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Making the cut, like grinding to make the cut, is not putting yourself in a position to win.
No,
that's putting yourself into position to make a check.
Yeah,
she's not out there playing just to make a check. Financially, she's going to be okay. she's good.
Yeah.
It's not about making a check. It's about winning. Yeah. I think that's kind of like that. When you get to the level that she's at in golf, you're starting. You haven't just come out on tour. You're not out there trying to get a paycheck, get some endorsements, get some money in the bank.
Yep.
She's out there to win now. Tiger's out there to win. Scheffler's out there to win. Rory's out there to win. Yep. They're not out there to just get by.
No.
So
Brooke's got 13 wins now and 2 majors. She's accomplished a lot of milestones.
That's a career.
That's a huge career for most players. So, she will get entries into lots of Hall of Fames and different things over the years or whatever. But you're right. Winning is her thing right now, and that's where she wants to be. And, this little bit of a drought, I think, is just going to spur her on a little bit more.
I would suspect so. So. Okay. Is there anything else?
Just one last
Canadians.
One last Canadian notes. There's no Canadians else playing on the tour, but this week, but there is one caddy in the field in particular, Nate Blasco, who I talked to a couple of weeks ago. Nate from Kingston area. He's been on the bag for Hannah Green for the last 6 years. It's a great partnership. They've got 6 wins, including a major championship. They have split. It is amicable. And now he is over on the bag for Jin Young Ko as of this week, 15-time LPGA Tour winner, who's number 12 in the world to start the season. So he basically went from a top-ranked player to the next best top-ranked player whose bag was available. So we wish Nate luck on that. And I know he'll have probably a great season with Jin Young Ko, and she's getting a great caddy.
It's awesome. Yeah, he certainly has carved out he's carved out a role for himself as a caddy. Like that's
he has. Yeah. Good young guy, still lives back here in Kingston, married now, but he's obviously very highly respected on the tour. And, I think he had more than a few opportunities, as far as bags were concerned, once Hannah and him decided just, after 6 years, maybe it was time just to freshen things up for both of them.
Oh, it's good that it was amicable.
Yeah,
seen far too many of those relationships go the other way. It doesn't.
For sure.
So it's nice to see that it was an amicable departure. Okay, so there we go. Brooke trying to rebound, get the season off to a good start with a strong showing. Hopefully a win this week in Orlando, where it's nice and warm. And I think we'll leave it there, Scott. I think we'll leave it there for this week. That's so great show, everybody. Thanks for listening, and thanks, Scott. This was awesome. Happy birthday tomorrow. I'll say it on the podcast right now. Happy birthday to Scott McLeod with the fancy hairdo and the nice sweater. He's looking really sharp today.
I look like I'm going to my first job interview.
I don't know what you're doing.
I don't know. I was just cold.
Are you?
No, God, no.
Okay. It's a good look, though. It's a good look.
Thank you.
I am not looking like that. I'm looking like I do every week. Like I'm just got out of bed, and am I wearing pants? Nobody will know. Okay. All right. That's enough.
Everyone on Thursday.
That's enough. Okay. Thanks, everybody. To tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors, Metcalf Golf Club, Celtic Golf Center, presenting sponsor this week, obviously, Golf PEI. Golf Prince Edward Island is a premier Canadian golf destination boasting the most number of golf courses per capita in the country, with over 400 great fairways closer than you can imagine. Top-tier accommodations and exquisite culinary experiences. It is the easiest golf vacation you will ever book, so book that vacation at golfpei.ca. Well, we certainly hope that you've been enjoying hearing and watching what we've been delivering. Be sure to follow us across all social media networks, Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. Subscribe on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And do not forget our YouTube channel. Like us and click the notification bell to make sure you never miss a single episode or anything we put up there. And get over to flagstick.com for more amazing golf content delivered every single day. Be sure to subscribe to the Flagstick Digest newsletter so that you get all that information delivered to your inbox 3 times a week, including this podcast. But as always, we do appreciate you tuning in. But until next week, I am Jeff Potter.
And I'm Scott McLeod.
Remember, always go for the stick.